Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We're focusing in on a viewer question that we got in, and that is the role of pathological lying and really sort of the deceptive tactics of a covert narcissist relationship. And we're going to dive in and focus on that and sort of explore that really and how it's used and how you can decipher it so you can make heads or tails of the situation and get yourself back on your feet and your head and your heart squarely face forward. And I also want to give a huge shout out to those individuals who have recently made a donation to me and the channel here, Peace and Harmony. It really is with much gratitude that I give to you. Thank you so much for your support and helping to build this community. And your input is so very valuable because it's very encouraging to me to keep this content going, to keep the resources here for you, and to know that I'm making an impact and that you are basically opening this up and making direct impact and change and making lasting change in your life and taking action on the tools that we discuss here. So I want to thank you so much for your generous, very highly generous donations. It really is important to me, and it helps me realize that we have value here that we need to protect and secure on the channel. So thank you so much for your donation. I really, truly appreciate it. And I want to focus in here in understanding how important it is to see through the deception tactics. When we talk about deception, it is the ultimate distraction. It is the ultimate camouflage. It's the ultimate sort of way for them to have you looking at one thing while you are not perceiving another. So when we talk about a bait and switch, we're talking about deception. We are talking about planting a vision for you, which you are to gaze upon while you're missing something else. And it is this deception, oftentimes through verbal statements, body language, other sort of techniques which a malignant narcissist or a psychopath will use to get you to fall for. They will get you ensnared in and trapped in. And they do this through a number of ways, particularly through the mask that they will tell you, pathological lies they will tell you, things that are meant to be supportive, yet they are really hurtful, negative validation, which means you, in essence, think that their feedback is important or accurate or meant to send you in the right direction when in essence it isn't. It's meant to disturb and distract you, and it's meant to keep you serving them and their interests versus your best good. And so you then, become almost addicted or connected or bonded to their validation, their feedback. You tend to almost live to please them. You live to get ready to kind of become your best as it relates to them and not as your best as it relates to you. So you kind of hollow yourself out to become better for them versus better for yourself and really your inner life. And it becomes very much a sham or kind of a reaction to their deception. So oftentimes to keep the deception going on, you must delude yourself. And then this is where the trauma and the drama comes in when you kind of continue to delude yourself or make these self-sacrifices to satisfy their deceptive tactics. So it's unbeknownst, it's really it's underneath your conscious perception. You don't realize that you're doing this. And their deception oftentimes is not apparent to the eye. It's not apparent to the heart. It's not apparent to the mind. In other words, you had, fallen in love with this person, their charm, and you didn't realize that it was deceptive in quality. You didn't realize that it was meant to ensnare you. You didn't realize that it was to take from you versus to give. But you eventually realize this in your own inner life when you find that you feel that there is something missing. There is something that they are not reciprocating back or validating back to you. That there is something just askew. There's something amiss. And you begin to become perceptive of this. And this really is from another sense. I mean, you feel it in your vision. You feel it in your touch. You feel it in the things that they say, and you tend to kind of excuse it away or enable it. In other words, you invalidate yourself by saying, okay, yes, I don't really need this. I'm speaking up too much. I'm too needy. You tend to berate your own needs and invalidate your own needs and kind of put those aside, brush those aside, and become the ultimate martyr for this person. You tend to, again, put their needs first and invalidate your own needs. In other words, because this person doesn't have the same needs that you do, you then kind of extinguish your own needs for honest and true attention and love and this feeling of open communication. And because a malignant narcissist or a psychopath does not have these needs in life, they don't have these needs at all because of their neural wiring, because of their lack of empathy. And it's not just like, oh, they're a cold and callous person, or they've adapted this way. We're talking about something that is really malignant, something that is really pathological, and oftentimes very disturbing to the fabric of life. In other words, they will exploit and manipulate others to a very profound, which means deep way, to the point where you basically end up assigning over to them your life, meaning you validate them more so than you validate yourself. You're validating this shouldn't be a need. You tend to kind of accept that or internalize that as part of kind of getting back into the relationship or the love bombing or the illusion, or basically what is the fantasy that they are giving you as a mask. Basically, they're saying that, this is where our relationship should be. It should be all about this. And these other things that you need, you shouldn't really need that. I'm going to feed you all this deception instead and see if you notice, see if you get it, or see if you're still falling for the deception and the crud. And really, it becomes a very toxic and very lethal sort of relationship. And lethal meaning it can cause a lot of unhappiness, rage, violence. A lot of it can bring out the worst of you. You're doing things that you never thought you would do. You're feeling like you're just losing it. You're going off the deep end. You're now maybe in court. Now you've got legal issues going on because of this individual, and you're in some place that you just don't want to be in life. You are basically not in the pasture. You're no longer in the good life. Things are no longer smelling as sweet. You're now smelling something very, very bitter about this person, and that is the fact that they have just duped you, deceived you, and fooled you, and that is the role of deception. From the Latin deception, which means basically to take or to ensnare, and so it is really a tool and a tactic that they deliberately use. It is innate in them. Innate means it is inborn. It is part of what they do. It is part of what they do well. You might think of Beethoven, and he was an innate musical genius. He had this in him. And, even though he might have had, Beethoven, I think, wasn't he blind or deaf? And yet he would wake up in the middle of the night and write these beautiful symphonies. And, it was just coming from this innate part of him, which is a mystical gift, and so he could create this incredible, beautiful music. And so a malignant narcissist, a psychopath, is very much the same way, but not in a positive, productive way. It's to the counter to that, the flip side. It's in a very derogatory, destructive, and lethal way. Lethal meaning poisonous or not life-giving. In fact, it can take life out of you. And so people, when they feel their low energy when they're around this person, they don't feel inspired, they don't feel animated, they don't feel joy, they don't feel happiness, they don't feel bliss. It's not the good life, it's just a lied life. It's not the good life that you initially had bid on or thought that was going to bloom into a good life. It's not a good life. It's a destructive life, oftentimes wrought with all sorts of confusion, conundrum, double meanings, lies, I mean, and just, when you talk about people lying, there's an extent of lying, and the malignant narcissist has a whole just series of lies that they delude people and they deceive people in, which means they're it's like a camouflage. And for some, camouflage is an adaptive thing, like we see with animals in nature. You might have a deer that has very earth tony skin. It's so that they won't be detected. So the by predators, those that prey on the deer. So camouflage. So they basically adopt this camouflage, this mask, which appears happy, which appears pleased with you, which appears that they're romantically involved with you. And this mask is seems happy when they're around you, and they're joking and they're laughing and they're seducing you and they're dressing up, and they're doing their little thing, their little dance that they do that you love, and then they'll tell you they love the way that you move and the way that you do this, and you're such a man or you're such a woman. I mean, they'll feed you all this, and they're doing this yet with a smile, but you don't realize it's really coming from a vengeance. You don't realize that part of the deception is that they're loving you out of a vengeance, which basically means they're an acting out of some sort of anger or hatred or resentment and fear. And so it's just like a vengeance that they don't really ever work through in their life. They kind of are this, so hence the malignant, meaning it's not really one to change. It is malignant. It is if you're familiar with like a cancer cell, it's an abnormal cell which takes over the healthy tissue within you. And so, and then it tends to spread. And so likewise, the malignant narcissist, it tends to spread through other layers of your being, and it tends to permeate your thoughts, feelings, perceptions, and behaviors, and then modifies those to adapt to them. So that's why when we talk about people changing their thoughts, beliefs, feelings, emotions, and behaviors to kind of get ready for this person. In other words, they're thickening up the delusion to meet their deception. And so you basically, end up, it really can become an all-out false life. I mean, and then that's why we hear about the malignant narcissist and the psychopath having double or triple lives, where they can just be one way to one person, and they have created a mask. It is this delusion which they innately do. Remember, like our Beethoven, it's an innate ability to them, which then they realize that most people don't have this, and so they feel above and they feel entitled to, and they feel like they have done nothing wrong because they feel superior to you because of this delusional ability. And so you can't talk common sense with them. You can't work things out. You can't have a heart-to-heart conversation. You can't, there aren't equal terms. You can't say, well, this hurt me and I'm sorry. I mean, there is no mutual understanding that is so crucial for relationships. Relationships need to be like two rocks. They might have sharp edges, but eventually, they kind of, come against each other, and they kind of soften up, and they kind of get along, and they kind of flow, together, even though, it's not always necessarily a compromise, but it's a coming together. And then people kind of smooth out, and they become more well-rounded in life. They become well-rounded people. They're, able to understand others' needs, and they learn and they grow. And then it's this wonderful getting along. That's why we see people, really holding hands in the park and really taking their kids for a walk and playing. And we feel this aura of here's this happy family, and, some people say, oh, look at them, they're such this happy family. But yet, it is the pathological envy of the malignant narcissist and psychopath, which says, look at that family, they're getting along. Like they kind of downplay, that is not a value. And so when you want this, or you want the good life or something real, genuine, the heart connection, and then they kind of scoff it off, or they give you the pretend hope that, oh, that's coming. That's, yeah, that's coming as soon as we do this, and as soon as we do that, and as soon as that's coming, they will delude you, they will deceive you, and then eventually you find out that all of those promises, and I will never hurt you, and when can I be, when can we do this again, is all a lie. It is all a misrepresentation of, what we call lack of heart, or because they don't have a heart. It is what they have basically told people in order to continue on with them in a relationship. And then that's why, it's meaningless. But so that's why you really need to feel good about letting them go, because you're letting go of something meaningless and you're embracing your own life, which is meaningful. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.